Black Arrows continue to dominate. Max gives Red Bull wings. An F1 legend justifies Lewis's actions, and Bottas jumped the start. See what I did there?
All right, guys, welcome in the Jump the Start podcast. I'm here, Wellington, with two of my closest friends. Say hello, Ruben.
What's going on, guys? Glad to have you guys back.
Yancy.
What's going on, guys? Back to talking about racing.
Yes, sir. It's been a few days since our last, it's been a week since our last podcast. But first, before anything, I want to make sure that you guys are aware we had some audio issues with our last episode. We have worked things out. Shouldn't have any issues again. We apologize for the whole thing, but we're still learning. We're still growing. It'll get better from here.
We're constantly trying to improve, and we're well aware. We're very self-critical of what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong, especially what we're doing wrong. So just bear with us. We're new to this, and we're trying to get everything as perfect as possible.
Of course, it's a learning experience. The last episode sounding sucked. Well, we'll get it together.
All right, so speaking of this podcast, it seems that we've developed a couple of new fans, starting with Martin Brundle.
Jump the start.
It was interesting to hear him refer to us during the race. Then also Crofty.
Jump the start.
Wow. Okay, and then
Wow.
and then Sebastian Vettel. You must have seen the stuff we've been posting about him on Instagram. Jump the Start podcast. At Jump the Start podcast.
Jump the start.
Amazing.
Damn.
It's
Wow.
crazy. All
So
these
much
guys
plug.
keep talking about us, all these plugs. But in all seriousness, we'll get to that.
I appreciate it if they ever do hear the podcast. Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bottas.
Yeah. Thank you to Valtteri Bottas. We'll get to that during the race review portion. Let's just jump in. Major stories coming into the weekend. The Aston Martin seat still not settled. There's, we talked about this last week. Sebastian Vettel is still rumored to go to Aston Martin, right? Currently Racing Point, but will become Aston Martin Racing next year. As far as I know, with Autosport was reporting earlier that it's Sebastian Vettel's decision on whether or not to go. I don't know if you guys have heard anything different or anything contradicts that.
What, you're saying that it's Sebastian's
That's what Autosport.
choice?
Yeah, that's what
saying
Autosport
that
said.
if he wants to sign, like he has a open contract, yeah. But why not? Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't that be the case? I mean, they're trying to attract a championship driver, and by all the means, all the ball is in Sebastian's court. If he wants, he can sign wherever he wants. He dictates his career because he has the right to. He's won with 4 world championships, and you know what? That would be an addition like no other to that team. So yeah, I mean that's the way it should be.
Yeah, I just feel like crying right now. This means this is getting closer and closer to the end of my boy Paris, the team saver. I don't want to cry. But yeah, I mean, if the team is on the table, that means it's closer and closer for him signing. If they have the offer on the table, it's just pretty much his, how do you say that? His decision. Like, oh, here, sign. One more, how much money you want? Like, it's a bunch of things still, So they're waiting for him to commit, to get everything prepared. It's, it's still in the air, in my opinion.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So
they'd be crazy not to even try to get him if he's available.
I just don't
and
understand. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that the offer's on the table. I mean, like I've said this before. I said it with Alonso. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's a big fire burning. And Vettel, I think, he'll be signing with Aston Martin if he still wants to race. And honestly, in that interview that he had with Martin Brundle over the weekend,
One of our biggest fans.
Seems like he still has that passion within him to race in Formula One and be competitive. And that car is looking mighty competitive.
I just don't get why, if it's his decision to make, just make that decision. Like, let's just go. Let's move on. Of course, he's going to want a seat next year.
I think he's waiting for Red Bull. They have not signed Alex Albon still again.
He's
They might
not
change
waiting
their
for
mind.
Red Bull,
You never
man.
know.
Hell no.
Come back home.
Red Bull. No, man. Why would you look at how Max has been performing, and he finished second in this race where literally there were cars faster than me.
We'll get to
No,
that.
man. Why would? Yeah, I know. I got you. But it's just like it doesn't make any sense why Red Bull would even sign Vettel at this point.
Threw something out there of a guy that still had not been signed and a seat still available.
I don't know. Back to Racing Point. The other piece of news going into this weekend is their car, their brake ducts, but in reality, it's their whole car, is still under protest from Renault. And actually, coming out of this weekend, it's the same thing with potentially even more teams joining the protest. Nothing has been. Apparently, Otmar Safnauer says he has 800 plus drawings that he could prove that it's a different car than the last year's Mercedes.
I think it's 866 drawings to be exact.
Wow.
No, I don't know. Other teams ain't doing nothing because they also have sister teams that could jeopardize what they're giving the other teams. You know, so it's a thin line. I believe that's the reason why Renault is doing it, not Red Bull.
Makes sense.
Because they have other teams that maybe that open the windows. Oh, so they look into your stuff. What do you got under there?
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
I don't think that those protests are not going to go nowhere. It seems like that team is smart enough to know that they were going to get heat just because the car looks so similar to last year's Mercedes. So they're going to, it's like taking a math class when they used to tell you, show your work. They've shown their work. And from what happens is that these protests don't go to the FIA. So they're good with the FIA. The protests go to the stewards. So the reason why it's taking them so long for them to even to make their case is that they literally have the FIA over the break went to that factory, spent 2 days at that factory, and I'm quoting what Otmar Safnauer said.
How do you
They
say
went
his
to
name
that
again?
factory. Otmar Safnauer.
Safnauer,
I think that's
I guess
Safnauer,
it'll take me days to get to know how to pronounce that.
So representatives from the FIA actually went to the factory, spent 2 days at that factory, and saw everything they were doing and cleared them. But when you file a protest, the protest is not to the FIA, it's to the race stewards. That's why Renault is going out of their way to protest the car after every race until this thing is settled. And what they're going to do is that they're going to combine those protests into one hearing. So they literally have to get all their work, put it together, now present it again to the stewards of those particular races. So that's why it's taking them a little bit longer, and the stewards can't physically go to the factory, so they got to come to them with everything and show them these are our original designs,
Oh my
blah
God.
blah blah, et cetera, et cetera.
Yo, if it's me, I keep protesting them and keep diverting their resources and their time to protesting. Screw them.
Well, I think that's what Renault is doing.
But
and I maybe in a few weeks I think the hearing is scheduled right before Silverstone, so we'll be able to
this
get a
upcoming
verdict
weekend is
on
supposed
that.
to see it.
okay, I mean, we all know Racing Point came from Force India, former team boss, team owner, I guess I should say, Vijay Mallya, right? So you know how to do the wrong things the right way. It's one of our closest friends says that. So, all right. So from there, I guess that's pretty much it. Let's jump into, I guess, a race weekend review.
Gentlemen, a short view back to the past.
Favorite YouTube video related to F1.
I start cracking up every time I hear that question.
We're going to do a little bit different style this time around. We're going to go by team who will review their whole race weekend. And we'll do, I guess, from top down, from winner to loser. And we'll just fill in the items from there rather than just going through practice, qualifying, race. So we'll start at the top. I'll hand it over to Ruben just to talk about Mercedes and how they performed this weekend.
The mighty Benz, which are going to be this year the Black Arrows, still show all weekend, all the way from quali, that they have what it takes to take the title. Don't know who's going to come close to them, but as a team, besides
nobody's coming close.
Yeah, besides that little bit of miscommunication on the pit stop with Ham to come in for tires at the end, they did everything as a team super smooth. What do you think, Yancy? What do you think they did as a team?
No, listen, they're showing what they are. They're a championship team. They're the gold standard in F1 right now. There's nobody better. And one thing that I found interesting in just reading up on the whole debacle with the Ferrari engine and what that did to Mercedes in particular. Last season, what Mercedes was up against the wall because that Ferrari engine, legal or not, obviously it was illegal.
The cheater one?
That Ferrari engine pushed them so hard that they actually developed their engine, which was good already. And they made that engine even better.
Yeah.
So you take that into account where you have his team who has, it's already a great team, great engineers, great strategists. Their engine is a cut above the rest. Nobody's even coming close, and we see that.
Nobody's even coming close to last year's car.
No, it's just so they made this engine better because Ferrari was pushing them so hard. And now you take into account that Ferrari's engine was basically illegal and they lost over 30 horsepower. And obviously Honda's not even close. Dude, that team is on, it's on automatic, bro. They just win automatically. It's crazy how good they are.
Yeah, there was to the point where even like the team bosses, so like Bernardo had not attacked, but he kind of said a couple of things and Toto Wolff responded where Toto Wolff, apparently Mercedes hasn't signed the next Concord agreement, whereas Ferrari has. And it's like, well, it's not like we're cheating or anything. There's a couple of things that we don't agree with and we want to make sure that we're all on the same page. But it's exactly in that same interview, he was saying exactly what you just said, Yancy, that the team was so not nervous for last year because they knew what they were up against. They had the development cycle already set up. But for this season, they wanted to keep the streak going. They want to maintain that best of car. And they put a ton of resources at the end of last year, into developing this year's car. And it shows. Obviously we joked that they were during qualifying 1 through 4 with the two racing points, but they were 0.8 up on the racing points. And this is a track that we anticipated that Mercedes would come back down to earth a little bit and that the Red Bulls would catch up and then maybe Ferrari with their chassis would be better. They're still 0.8 clear of the racing point, 1 second clear of the next car behind their engine. So it shows in the qualifying, and then it showed right away in the race where Ham jumps out to an insurmountable lead, literally he was out 3 seconds ahead by like turn 4. It was crazy.
Yep.
In wet conditions. Imagine if it had been dry. I think he would have probably been out further.
It's scary where this team is and where they're going to be for next year because I don't see anybody catching them. Not even Racing Point, Aston Martin. Red Bull would need a miracle with their Honda engines. They're down power-wise as well.
I mean, it's usually the pecking order is usually you have the top 3, now we're not even talking about this season. It's usually Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull at the top. Then you have the midfield, then you have the back markers, and we talked about this in a previous episode. But now, how this season is shaping up is that you have Mercedes alone, then you have Racing Point
and Red Bull.
Then you have the midfield, which is the top of the midfield is Ferrari. Can you believe that?
No, top of the midfield is like McLaren,
Where's
No,
Ferrari?
come on. The Ferrari's faster than McLaren, bro. Get out of here, man. Come on. All right. The Ferrari's faster than McLaren. All right. They're not, I mean, they're bad, but they're not that bad. All right. But they're gonna be fighting for points. And then you have the bottom three, which are Haas, Alfa Romeo, which is and Williams. And Williams looks to be on the rise after this race. And we'll talk about that later. But it's incredible how everything is worked out. And obviously the biggest part of it is the engine, or the illegal Ferrari engine. But then also it seemed like Mercedes is so good that it seems like even with the factory shutdowns, they've been the only one that really have come out better from that. I think every other team looks like they're regressed.
And by the way, Mercedes was also doing the same thing as almost every major manufacturer. They were doing machines to help, fight COVID as well. Yeah. And they still came out on top.
That's a good point.
But now we're going to move to actually talk about the drivers within the same team. So Ham, showed that he's definitely not distracted, Wellington.
We'll get to that too. But yeah, he definitely showed me up. He is not distracted at all by what's going on. Basically,
I told you, don't question that man.
The
don't
moment
question him.
He proved me wrong.
Always comes back.
Don't question him, man.
So then the other story regarding the other Mercedes driver, Valtteri Bottas, is I'm sorry, hold on. Valtteri Bottas, whenever we mention him, especially this week when we say that he potentially jumped the start, hold on.
To whom it may concern.
So essentially, he's telling us, who cares? But so what ended up happening is at the beginning of the race, he was looking down at his dash. The lights went out on his dash earlier than they went out on the actual lights on the track. You're supposed to, as the race driver, go out with the lights on the track that the race director controls. What ended up happening is he moved a slight bit. That did not register a jump start. And I'm saying it carefully to not, keep pushing our brand, but but it did not register a jump start because the transponder did not register that slight of a movement, or it did not take it out of the what do you call it? The margin of error for
the margin of error is like 0.2 seconds or so, 0.2 of a second.
So my problem is that there was talks the whole race of whether or not he's going to get a penalty, whatever. It was clear that start hurt him. So it's yeah, okay, he moved, but it's not like he got an advantage.
Nah, screw that. He jumped the start. I'm a Mercedes fan. He jumped the start, regardless of what the computer says and stuff like that. If you were racing like that in the street, you jump the start. Screw that. And obviously, he made a mistake. He had to then re-engage the clutch and blah blah blah, all of that other stuff. But he jumped the start. Like I said, there's nothing else you can do. Pay up. He lost, 5 places and all that other stuff. But he had an awesome quality though. He was doing great, but he jumped the start.
Yeah. See, what are your thoughts, man?
He jumped the start, man. There's no way. There's no other way of interpreting that. He jumped the start. He clearly jumped the start. He went, I think he did that in another race and he got away with it. I think it was in Russia. He got away with it. I think he wound up winning that race.
And Sebastian Vettel did it last year in Japan. And it was the same thing. They were within the margin of error for the transponder.
We're all waiting for this penalty
to come out.
and it was so clear. And they said, was it with the transponder and within a 0.2 second? And come on, man. If he jumped the start, he jumped the start.
So let me ask you guys a question.
And thank God he did, because he gave us free promotion, but he jumped the damn start.
Let me ask you guys a question. What is the appropriate penalty? A drive-through penalty, 10 seconds? What do you guys think?
I say 10 seconds.
10 seconds? Okay, so what if I told you that he beat the next car by 57 seconds?
That's fine, but you jumped the start.
What's the point?
But you jumped the start. Pay up.
10 seconds seems a little bit harsh. I think maybe like a 5-second penalty. Especially if it's a closer battle. That's a little bit harsh if you jump the start. I don't think you're going to get, I don't think you're going to get a 10-second advantage, but then again, it's like Wellington said, he finished 57 seconds. 52nd second ahead?
57 seconds ahead of Lance Stroll. Come on.
Dude, the gap was so crazy and how far ahead of the field
Actually,
that
I'm
they
sorry.
were.
He finished 48 seconds ahead of Stroll. 57 seconds was the gap between Hamilton and Stroll.
I feel like almost all the drivers got lapped in this race.
Yes.
That's how far behind everybody else.
Well, I read that if Ham did not come in for fresh tires to go for the fastest lap, he would have lapped everybody except Max and Bottas.
I mean, the fact that he was lapping, he was lapping the Ferraris. That was
that was coming. You know that, Yancy. Come on, Ferraris is a slow market. You know they're back markets now.
All right. So regardless of that, during the race, Bottas ended up pushing. He pitted just before the end and was able to get within a couple of seconds from within 1 second of Max Verstappen. Right at the end of the race on fresher tires. We talked about the undercut and overcut a couple of weeks ago. This doesn't apply here in the sense that he was just on fresher tires that had the ability to take on more energy.
He did undercut Stroll though. That's how he passed him.
Yeah, right. But on the race, during the race itself, he didn't seem to have too much trouble. Correct me if I'm wrong. That car was just too much.
No, he didn't have that much trouble getting by, against other people. Just, he showed on lap 10, he showed Bottas is pretty much walking Leclerc. That was the only guy that gave him a little, maybe a couple of corners, but he just walked in like it was a drag race getting away from him. Right,
but on this track that's so tight, they call it the Monaco without the walls. You know that the aerodynamic, I guess the wash from the car ahead of you, it's going to affect you. So it was just a matter of time before he was able to pass Leclerc. Does anybody beat Mercedes this year? That's really my question.
No.
Does anybody win a race?
Listen,
no.
It doesn't look like it. I mean, it seems like Mercedes could possibly, and I mean, again, anything can happen because this is why we race. We can't predict everything, and a lot of different things happen. Just look at, Germany last year when we thought Mercedes was going to run away with it. And they had a really, really, really bad race.
Well, the rain too.
With the rain, but that's what I'm saying. So there's so many different elements that can happen during the race. But the way they're looking, they can possibly challenge the McLaren MP44 for the best car ever. And that McLaren car they won every race but one that season. Because their cars
it's a short season. I wouldn't put it up to the car yet. If they do this, if they run away with it next year, then you could put it up with that. But this short season, with everything that's going on, I don't think it's...
Yeah, but what if they
the
get...
cars maybe up to par on it, but...
Yeah, but what if they get 15 to 18 races, and that's still a pretty good. And the MP44 didn't do that many races,
right?
I mean, gotcha. I don't know exactly the number, how many races that they did.
I was just pretty much focusing.
But I think that was 88. And any of the viewers can correct me if I'm wrong on social media. I think that was 88, and I think they only had maybe like 14 or 15 races that season. So, and that car is legendary. That car is legendary. And for you to be up there to say that your car as a team won, I think it was 14 out of 15 races. That's amazing. They only lost one race.
So if McLaren needs money, how much do you think that car's going to go for?
You looking to buy it?
Nope.
No, but look, just going forward, it's Silverstone ×2, which is one of Lewis's favorite tracks. It's his home track. It's going to be tough to beat him in either of those. Then after that, it's Barcelona, which their car being such a good all-around car, it's like, then beyond that, it's Spa, Monza, then
high-speed tracks.
Yeah, it's all high-speed, high engine power tracks. Like, I just don't see them. There's no Singapore this year. We already did Hungary. I just don't see them losing.
The only hope is that, Red Bull get their act together. I don't see anybody else even challenging them. I mean,
Not even
Racing
Williams?
Point. No, come on, bro. Dude, you have too much hope in Williams. But yeah, I don't see anybody. Not even like Racing Point is fast, but Racing Point they blew away the midfield. They're blowing away the midfield, but they're not. They can't compete with Mercedes. That's last year's Mercedes. You know, they can't even come close. The only team that has even hopes are going to be Red Bull. Ferrari, obviously, their engine is shot this year. They can't develop it this year, so they can't do anything. And honestly, if they wind up cheating, it doesn't look like they had a grasp on that hybrid engine, anyways. You know, so who is true? Like, who can challenge them? Who can? It's just literally what you're going to be doing watching Mercedes is just sitting back and enjoying watching history. That's all you're going to be doing.
Unless Red Bull finds what the hell is wrong with the arrow of their car, nobody's touching Mercedes this year.
So
nobody.
Yeah. So speaking of that, let's move on to the next team, Red Bull. They literally were saved from a disaster of a weekend. And I'm saying this as all four of their cars, meaning the Red Bull team and then also the AlphaTauri team, they all had problems this weekend. Qualifying, it showed up where Max qualified at 7th. Albon was out in Q2. It was actually Gasly did well in P10, but like I said, that's not even Red Bull. But it was just a disaster all weekend long, to the point where even George Russell jumped in to defend Alex Albon and his performance, saying that the car itself is just not in good shape.
Like, seriously, guys, why are you guys taking me out in traffic? I told you guys this.
Dude, look, I like Albon, but man, he sounded like he was just a whiny kid.
Yeah, I mean that wasn't a good look for him. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what conditions you're in. You just gotta take it as it is and go. You know, and I get it. You know, as drivers, you gotta you gotta talk to your team. You gotta give them feedback, and sometimes it sounds like complaining, but man, if they put you out there, just put in your lap. Try your best. I mean, it seems like he was struggling. I mean, he did well during the race, man. He started back and he came through the field, and whenever he's put in those positions, you know, he excels. He gets through. He makes the overtakes, and
he excels until he finds one of the Mercedes cars.
Well, until a Mercedes car runs into him.
Yeah.
I think we keep saying this.
or the Racing Point.
So the silver arrows literally become silver arrows.
Yeah. So speaking of the Red Bull team itself, the day of the race, literally right before the race, doing their installation laps, Max Verstappen slides off track and literally he goes into the barriers, damages the front of the car to the point where they had to wheel him to his grid spot and make the repairs of the front wing and his suspension within a few minutes. And they end up finishing 5 minutes. I think it was 5 minutes before.
20 seconds before.
20 seconds before.
Okay.
20 seconds before they had to start the race. That's how long they literally worked on that car. Well, when they got to the grid spot, they had like 25 minutes, but they finished they had 20 seconds left before they can even stop working on that car so they can start the race.
Listen, I just know that on Sunday, I was a little bit behind to watch the race. I have the volume up in my living room. Out of nowhere, I hear, and that's Max Verstappen. He just crashed. I'm like, what? I almost dropped my coffee in the kitchen. I had to run back to the living room. Probably almost burned my toes. And I'm wondering what the hell this guy was doing. What did you do that you crashed in not even the formation lap? We're talking about you just taking the car out for a spin. You're not even warming up the tires. Who the hell told you to go so fast?
Well, that's the problem. He's on a slick track that's got moisture on it. The tires aren't warm. He was on Inter, so it takes longer to heat those tires up. And that's why he ended up going off. But It is just.
Listen, don't give him any excuses.
You know that's my guy. You know that's my guy. But
don't sugarcoat it.
it's just a situation where, they say Red Bull gives you wings. They gave him front wing and they gave him suspension. And that is just a well-oiled machine of a team just putting in the work and getting their guy literally back on track. And as a result, he was able to finish in second place.
No. When you talk about what they did, that was a miracle job. Oh man, they look like little ants when they took the drone. I guess the drone or the helicopter shot from the top. It looked like a bunch of cans of Red Bull were on top of the car, like trying to squish it together, and they got it together. That was an awesome job by the mechanics. I'm glad Max gave him super props as soon as the race finished. Hey, great job to all the mechanics. Thank you for putting the car together. That was an awesome plug. He didn't mention throughout the whole race, that Bottas jumped the start to give us a plug, but it's fine. We can live with that.
Listen, nothing in Formula One's happens by mistake. Nothing is a miracle. These guys were prepared for that. I mentioned to you guys when we were texting during the week, and right after the race, that team is amazing. That team, as far as strategy-wise, I think they make the right strategy calls all the time. In the pits, when they have to make I remember China a few years ago when they had to do that back-to-back pit stop with Max and Ricardo, and I think Ricardo ended up winning that race. Man, that was crazy. That was a great strategy call. The team executed flawlessly those pit stops, and they wound up winning the race. When the chips are down, Red Bull knows how to get the job done. And honestly, man, when I saw that crash, when I was late also to watching to turn on the TV, and all I hear, and I see a text from Wellington saying, because we have a group chat going, and I see a text from Wellington saying, "Oh, Max crashed in the formation lap," and I'm like, "What in the world happened?" And I was just like, "Oh!" And the first thing I was like, because I was the day before, obviously before qualifying, I was putting together my fantasy team. And I think we're allowed to have 3 teams, and he's on both of my fantasy teams. I'm like, that's it. I'm done on fantasy. Wellington wins again. But man, dude, that was amazing how they can get that car get it. And even when they fixed it, I was like, something's gonna happen to Max. Something's gonna fail. This is just too good to be true, man. But boy, they do an awesome job, man. And
that's just top down.
Max,
I also heard
Max did an amazing job to lift that team after such hard work and get that second place. That was almost like a victory for them, man.
I also saw online earlier that Marco said that in the winter
Helmut Marko.
Yeah, Helmut Marko's online said that in the winter they have like a boot camp for the mechanic. And this is why they do it, for situations like what happened on Sunday.
I wonder if I could just go. Like,
I wonder if I could just apply for that too.
Yeah.
I'm here.
It's just, dude, organization. And it's not even a team thing. Like, Ruben just pointed this out. It's an organizational thing. Like, we are going to essentially be drill instructors for ourselves and make sure that we're on point, make sure that we have everything the way that it needs to be set up so that we can perform race day, whatever the situation may be.
Imagine if they build their own engines, how good they would be.
Oh my God.
Oh, man.
So the other car. So we saw before the race started, Max crashed. And then the other situation was they had the, I guess the leaf blowers going into the brake ducts for Alex Albon. Something happened, or like you could see it on video, or something happened where the steward from the FIA tells them they got to set the leaf blowers down, and they left them on, and it looked like they were essentially drying the patch of asphalt immediately at the right where Alex Albon's tires were going to line up. Somebody noticed it, protested it. Turns out like there was no penalty, but it was another situation in which we're watching the whole race, waiting for a penalty, and nothing.
Yeah, it's pretty much waiting for clarification, like throughout the whole race on another should be a penalty, not a penalty. And it's like watching like a drama. Like, is it going to happen? Like, oh, is the person going to get killed now? Are they going to get penalized now? So we get he just drags it along. I felt like it was like sometimes like a soap opera, that we're still waiting for the results to come out, the truth to come out, kind of stuff. I mean, I did see at the ending of the race where they had like some of the equipment on the side for Red Bull, where Will Buxton was doing like a post-race thing,
yep.
and they were checking out the equipment on the floor. So maybe that gave them a little more clarity and frost, like how the equipment blows, and it doesn't blow, I guess, through a major area, just in one little secluded area where it's pointing. I don't know. This is some equipment that I'm still wondering how they get so much power out of these little batteries.
It's a leaf blower.
No. I'm wondering how they get so much, because they have like freaking 8 of them, one for each tire, for the air intake, and it's only this little batteries. Like, come on, how many batteries are they going to have back there?
Yeah, but you could go to Home Depot and freaking buy a Ryobi battery and it'll last you a few hours. It's like that's not that serious.
Ryobi.
Bro. Come on, man. But you know what? When that report came out, I was gutted for Albon because
He didn't do anything.
I mean, what do you mean he didn't?
No,
I mean, I'm saying
his team did.
Yeah.
something, not him.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like he
still
didn't
gotta
do
pay.
anything. I mean, like he went from like I think he started 14th and went up to 6th place.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude was he was killing it all race. He put his head down. He didn't look like the Albon that we saw in qualifying. He looked like somebody who was a man on a mission, and he did amazing, man. He made a really good. He literally dive bombed into turn 1. Who was that against?
Grosjean?
It was against Grosjean.
I don't like it, man. These dive bombs, it's like playing online, man.
He got lucky.
Well, but listen, it's fun. It's fun for the viewer.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's cool. But it was a dive bomb, but it was a perfectly executed dive bomb. He did a really good job. He gave Grosjean room, and it was a dope move, man. And he did a great job during the race to get that car up to 6th place, considering how bad he did in qualifying. And that's why I personally like Albon. He tends to bounce back from bad days, and that's always a sign of a good sportsman.
So it's clear, we're talking about this, that at this track, the Red Bull car was the second best car. But it's even more clear that freaking Max is an unbelievable driver. To be able to he didn't keep up with Ham, but he didn't get lapped. Obviously, that's a low bar, but he kept it within 10 seconds, and he never allowed Bottas to be able to catch him. Something's got to be said for that. And this is going to sound crazy, but if I'm Max, I'm looking around, because there's no way that my talent should be at a car that's not the best. I should be winning championships today.
He's outperforming that car, and I think we mentioned that last week. We didn't know last week at that point where Red Bull was at, and we were hoping that they would be in a better place. And honestly, if I'm looking at this weekend as far as a team, not Max, as far as a team, as the Red Bull team, I'd be very disappointed, because they are nowhere near Mercedes. They're, the whole talk before the preseason was Red Bull is finally going to come in and challenge Mercedes. And it just didn't happen. It just didn't work out. And honestly, is what we said. It could be either that car is really good and they just got to get it under control, or Max is literally doing what Max does, and what any great driver does is outperform that car. And he is literally outperforming that car.
Yeah, I think this weekend he showed that he's clearing a path on becoming a great driver. To be a top, chisel out driver. He's still young. He's still a long way to go. But he's showing the world, hey, I'm a great driver. I want to win. I deserve to be in the front.
Yeah, man. I mean, but yeah, he needs to start looking elsewhere, because Red Bull ain't giving him the car.
Speaking of elsewhere, next best car, Racing Point. We already talked about Renault and their protest. Otmar Safnauer saying that he's got plenty of drawings to back it up. They had a 3rd and 4th place qualifying finish after showing incredible pace in the practices. And even Toto Wolff said that Racing Point looked faster through some corners than Mercedes did. They had a bad start to the race that kind of put them in a situation where they had to overtake a couple of cars and not just rely on the car itself being fast. What did you guys think? Ruben, what did you think of Racing Point's weekend?
Listen, this is the team that we're going to be talking about it all year long. All year long, there's going to be something to say about this team. Where there's going to be a protest, where it's going to be so much speed they have. With the driver competition that we keep having all the time as well. For example, Stroll, I still don't get. I still don't like him as a driver, compared to like a Max. But Stroll is daddy's son. He's not going nowhere. He's daddy's son. So I'm not going to fire him. And this weekend he performed excellent. He started third. They both Racing Points did not have a great start. He made it back, to fourth, but he was because he got overtaken by Bottas. But Bottas was already in front of him prior to the start anyway. So the only mistake that I see from Stroll that happened this weekend was that I didn't like. Maybe I have to look more on the tires that he had left and stuff like that. It was on lap 54. He went on hard tires. Dude, it's only 17 laps left. Like, why the hell would you go on hard? And I was, Perez, Mr. We don't really want you in our team anymore, even though you saved all of our jobs 2 years ago. He was horrible at the start. Between lap 1 to 5, he dropped 8 places. Lap 20, he had a good battle with Ricciardo and Leclerc. But, 3 laps later, he left them in the dust. So he has the machine and he has the car. As a team, they have it. They just have to, I guess, maybe get used to it and trust the car more so they could put it all the time in the right places. Stroll has to work a lot on his overtaking. Maybe he should take some lessons from Ricciardo, because Ricciardo, on this track, he loves this track, by the way. So, it's things that are there. Maybe Stroll needs to listen more to his coach. His coach was Montoya, I think, for something like that.
Juan Pablo Montoya.
Juan Pablo Montoya is his coach in the background. Juan Pablo Montoya was crashing everybody. Come on, dude, start crashing or something. Do something.
What do you think?
That's going to show who you are.
Well, Stroll did better than I thought he would, to be honest with you. Everybody knows I'm not a fan of Stroll.
No.
No one is.
But he did better. And then, there's nothing more to say. We'll see how everything shakes out, later. But he's doing pretty good, and to come in fourth is pretty good. I would have thought that they would, the way they performed in qualifying, I would have thought that they would at least be getting closer to that third place spot. But I think they'll do better at the power tracks coming up, just because they have that Mercedes engine and they have similar aerodynamics. But yeah, and then, I was just wondering what happened to Sergio. He finished way back. He should have at least been right behind him.
Yeah. So on the Stroll front, Ruben mentioned Ricciardo. Me personally, I'm not a huge fan of his. We saw in the Hungarian Grand Prix that he dive bombed Ricciardo to try and he couldn't get past him. He finally dive bombed him to get past him, and that's when Lando Norris ended up getting past both of them. That call was deemed to be illegal, right? Illegal. It was deemed to be an illegal overtake going into this race weekend. So that's just the type of thing that we see from him. We saw, I think he dive bombed somebody. I forget exactly who it was. He dive bombed somebody else this weekend as well. But it's a low skill. Basically, it's an assault on a driver, on the driver in front of you.
Yeah, but that's why I don't think he's that good of a driver. He definitely has a lot to work on. But listen, he's in a fast car and he's daddy's son. He's not going anywhere. So.
Yeah, my point on the overtaking lessons is like last week it was with Ricciardo. Last week was with Ricciardo. He could not get past Ricciardo. On this one, he couldn't get past K-Mag. Yeah, he had a lot of trouble getting around Kevin Magnussen. He had a lot of trouble getting around K-Mag. And it's the same way. It's just he needs to trust the car, trust his skills, and move on, move forward.
He has no skills.
He got the money. He has the money.
He pays people to like him. All right, so
I think it's just because he has a fast car. Whatever. It is what it is.
Well, everybody, if you have a fast car, you're popular, right? That's what they say. Yeah. Back in high school, I guess. But Ferrari, DNC, do you want to talk to us about what their weekend looked like? It was better than last weekend.
Listen, Vettel saved that team from a better finish when he called. And I didn't know that he did this during the race. I saw the video afterwards. I think everybody saw the video afterwards. where he called for the mediums when the team was calling in for the softs. And obviously, we can see how horrible of a call that was because they put the softs on Leclerc, and Leclerc was literally nowhere. And he was even complaining on the radio how bad that those tires was in that car. It compromised him completely. He probably could have gotten a better finish. But it just shows again how Ferrari just shoot themselves in the foot. One thing that's good is that Vettel seems like he's getting back to his old self. He did an awesome job to finish up there. Raced well. But they should have been at least 5th and 6th, I think. I think they would have been able to pull that off if Leclerc had the right tires. But and one thing, and I'm going to praise Leclerc obviously because he's my favorite driver.
Praise him
But he for what? Because he showed how good he was, good of a driver he was defensively and keeping the cars back even though he was on the worst tire. And that battle with Lando was so cool to watch, man. It was so good to see those two go, wheel to wheel, clean racing, very exciting to see. And obviously at that point, Leclerc pulled off a great overtake going into turns 1, 2, and 3, where he literally went to turn 1 and he went one way, then the next turn he went the other way to finally finish that overtake on turn 3. That was an amazing battle to watch. And, Lando did just as good. And, I can't wait to see these guys competing against each other. When you see that was amazing. But, and Leclerc did a great job, but they just put him on the wrong strategy. I think he should have finished up high.
Listen, I think Vettel did phenomenal just by making that call. That's not the first time he does it. He's made that call in the past before about the tire.
Well, he did two things. He made the call and then he passed Leclerc because you saw the train that developed behind Leclerc. It was Perez. It was one of the McLarens. It was one of the Renaults.
Listen, Leclerc was the midfield gatekeeper this weekend because he fought everybody in the midfield.
Wow. Yo, but you know what's crazy? Is
I'm not Yancey. I'm not going to defend Leclerc.
No, but Yancey mentioned defensive driving. I'm like, yeah, it looked like he was defensive driving and like staying in his lane, making sure he put on his turn signals because everybody was behind him. It was like crazy.
He was the gatekeeper. That's what I think that he did this weekend. He was just the gatekeeper.
Listen, he was trying to defend this spot. He put the car in the right places. But yeah, I mean, that's what created the train. He's a great driver, man. He's a great driver.
He kept it under, 60 miles per hour. He made sure he was good.
Yeah, he was riding on the limit, all of that stuff,
But
haters.
Yeah, exactly. They qualified actually 5th and 6th. They were, like I mentioned earlier, 1 full second behind the Mercedes cars. They actually started off the race really freaking strongly behind Bottas's jumping of the start.
Jumped the start.
They both jumped out well ahead, and they were doing
what
really
did Bottas do?
He jumped the start.
Oh, okay.
So Leclerc dove into the pits first per team orders. He was actually trailing Vettel at that time, but they brought him into the pits first, and they put him on used softs, as you guys mentioned. That was just a mistake. I just don't understand what they were thinking. Everybody else that had pitted around him went on to mediums, and that kind of tanked his race. He also had an incredible battle with Alex Albon, but in this track, again, it's about the aerodynamic wash from the cars and being able to get around that.
Yeah, in this track, wherever you go, is a battle, pretty much. If you're getting close to somebody, you're going to battle out. Because they have space, for runoffs, which is what they don't have in Monaco. So they're able to push each other a little bit. What I got to say about Vettel and Leclerc, because they got passed by everybody, is that they did good defensive.
Guys, I hate it.
They did great defensive. All the passes that they did or that were done to them were super clean.
So they're defensive drivers. Did you get their certificate for the insurance?
Yeah, man.
Jeez.
So, over this weekend with them, it's just, if the soft tire would have worked this weekend, they would have done phenomenal. But the soft tires did not work at all. And they were the only ones pushing it.
Why would you put on a soft tire on a track that's just drying off and it's cool?
It's
man.
too cool.
It just doesn't make any sense. That soft tire is only good on a track that's already heated up, so it can.
That's where an experienced driver like Vettel makes decision like that, not Leclerc. Leclerc just
man. But
goes by
I mean,
what they tell him.
what I want to say is that, a soft tire is only good when the conditions are hot. It can heat up quickly. It can stick to the track better, and you get better grip. But if that tire is not heated up properly, you're not going to get any grip to the corners.
Listen.
And that's exactly what happened to Leclerc. It was a horrible call. Ferrari did it again. They put their strategists put their drivers in bad positions, and they wound up paying for it with a bad result.
Listen, that's why you need experience. In this last race, Leclerc was a monkey driving because they told him, we're going to put you on soft, and he didn't say anything. I couldn't keep talking and stay serious. I had to laugh. I'm sorry.
You see any last words on Ferrari before we move on?
But what else is there to say, man? Let's move on to the next race, and maybe we'll get a better result. I mean, it's going to be a tough season for us. I don't have anything else to say.
Okay. Speaking of a tough race, McLaren, they kind of fell back down to earth after Norris's 2 great performances in Austria. It was just a disappointing weekend overall. Sainz ended up placing 9th, getting 2 points, and Norris ended up 13th outside of the points. We talked about the Norris and Leclerc battle. They just kind of were nowhere. Is there anything to really glean from their performance this weekend? Not
really. I mean, at least they got 2 points out of it, but they didn't really do particularly too well. I mean, I don't see that. I don't think that they did anything wrong. It was just the car was slow. It doesn't seem like they do very good in these type of tracks.
I really don't know what happened to them.
And I don't know. It was very surprising. We thought they would be better. They would do better, but it was just a lackluster race. And I can't really pinpoint exactly what went wrong. Maybe everything went wrong for them.
Listen, I hope that in the next upcoming races, because it's close to their home base, and they probably use, Silverstone sometimes to run some testing and stuff like that. I hope they bring back the momentum they had from the first 2 races. It looks like in this last race in Hungary, they lost momentum. I think a big point on their success in the first 2 races was the momentum they had. They lost it this week.
Yeah, but
hopefully they get it back.
So
because we don't know what really happened to the car. We don't know if they were just
3
put in
points
bad
that make up
positions or
the
what.
car: the power unit, the aero, and the chassis. Where do you think that they're wrong? Obviously, with the Renault power unit, they're not going to be. But this is not like a heavy power track, I
don't think the engine was the power. Maybe it was the aero. Maybe it was the strategy. I mean, there's so many factors that go into it, but I don't know. They were nowhere, and it showed.
Yeah.
So is that what you
results.
think, that Norris punished himself and he started being a mechanic after the race? I messed up, guys. I'm going to mechanic myself as well.
We saw that picture on social media.
That was really cool to see. I mean, I think his reasoning was that, listen, these guys have been at it for 3 weeks in a row, which is very rare in Formula One. Mechanics are tired. At least he can help them out and, get back home. And
his reason was, I still got to wait for all these guys so we could all live in the same plane. Come on, guys. Give me a wrench. We'll get out of here together.
He wanted to go play COD.
He wanted to Twitch on stream.
Yeah,
exactly.
Speaking of Renault power units, the Renault team themselves, another team with a nondescript weekend. This one is really hard to pinpoint. Coming out of the 3rd race of the season, they did not qualify well. Ricciardo ends up finishing 8th in a car that was just nowhere compared to everybody.
I'm surprised
else.
that I'm surprised when I saw the top 10 at the end of the race that Ricciardo was even up there, to be honest.
We can tell why he's leaving. The car, again, is just it's nowhere. It's not even in the top. It's below Ferrari, it's below Racing Point, McLaren, and Mercedes, and Red Bull. So it's not where it should be for as powerful a manufacturer as they are.
And as much as they talk themselves up that they've made so much progress, they've updated the factory. They talk themselves up so much as far as engine is concerned and the aero, but last year they declined, and it seems like they're declining again this year.
It's none of that.
I don't know. It's just sad to see that, to be honest with you, because we really thought a few years ago that Renault would be fighting near the top by this point.
It's none of that. Okay, they just have to stop crying, looking for reason to protest, other teams and stuff like that, nitpicking. Focus on your team so you could get your results, so you could move forward. regardless of, what does it matter if you upgrading factory and all that other stuff, if you're just going to be taking pictures of Racing Point, but you're not even taking pictures of your own team, that, as the years progress, you just keep declining and good drivers are leaving. I don't know.
What they need to do is what Mercedes did last year when they knew, when they were pretty much sure that Ferrari was doing something wrong with that engine. Instead of complaining, they went to work and made their engine better, and it's showing this year. That's what Renault needs to do.
Yep. And guess what? They're going to be the only team with their power unit starting next year, so they need to really start putting up or shutting up. Haas looking like rock stars this weekend. No more Vanker status. They actually qualified 16th and 18th, really at the back of the grid because they just had issues.
Not the engine issue?
Not well.
Cheating engine?
That's part of the problem. But
Basegi.
yeah, coming into the formation lap, they made the call. I'm going to say this very carefully. They made the call along with their drivers to go ahead and pit to put themselves on slicks, meaning the soft, medium, hard tires, as opposed to the tires more geared toward rain. And it turned out to be an amazing call. The track dried up very quickly, and they jumped into the top 5 right away, those 2 cars, because everybody else just dove into the pits after the race had started. They ended up getting a penalty because you're not supposed to talk to your driver and say, hey, yeah, come in and pit. The guy's supposed to make his own decision prior to the race starting.
That was so stupid.
So stupid. All these penalties this week, I just don't understand.
That was such a stupid technicality, you could say. So pretty much, I could talk to you, but I could have told you, like, if I, be prior to the race, if I tell you, hey, Wellington, so if I tell you about the radio, we'll let you decide. That means come in. If we tell you, oh, no, stay out, I'm still not coaching. I mean, if I say to stay out, it's still coaching you. But if I tell you something else, that me and you just agree, I don't have to necessarily over the radio tell you that, which is where Kvyat, Red Bull, or AlphaTauri did not respond to his messages. Because if they would have responded to agree, then it would have been coaching as well, even though he did not come in.
It's like the old multi-21 command between, what is it, Vettel and Mark Webber.
Yep. Multi-21.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense, but listen, at least they got some points out of it.
Yeah, so they were both fighting.
I mean, it was great. It was good to see, man.
They were both fighting competitive at the start of the race. Grosjean ends up receiving front wing damage when he's passed by Albon, which we talked about earlier. K-Mag was literally told over the radio, be careful out there, etc. Meaning, dude, let everybody pass. Don't take any damage. Don't just make sure to get us to the end.
Don't be a hero, dude.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody to, suck my, But not much more to say. They have a dog of a car, and they were lucky to get some points in this one with a great rock star status call.
Goes to show you how if you do your strategy correctly, you can at least get some points out of it. You don't necessarily have to be a faster car.
This was the track for it. This is the strategy track. So
For sure.
Speaking of a dog of a car, the Alfa Romeo. Actually, yes, he had something to say about, what was it you said before we started recording about Alfa Romeo?
The only thing to report about Alfa Romeo is that they were last.
Yeah.
That's about it. And maybe that Kimi Raikkonen got a penalty because he went into the wrong grid slot.
So where did he go?
At the beginning of the race.
So it's another one where it doesn't really matter. He's at the back. Who cares?
He's all the way in the back.
He's like dead last. I guess he's not used to starting dead last. As a distinguished career as Kimi Raikkonen's had, he got a penalty. I think it was a 5-second penalty for starting in the wrong grid slot. So I think he went. I don't know if he either he was supposed to start on the right, then he went to the left, he started on the right. Whatever, man. It was insignificant. They were just last, and it is what it is, man.
So
I think that the Ferrari engine's troubles is affecting them obviously the most.
The first step is being able to admit it, but we had intercepted some Kimi Raikkonen radio, and I believe that this is what he was saying.
Just leave me alone. I know what to do.
Yeah, he did. He clearly did not. Dude, it's going to be an ugly season for Alfa Romeo. Ugly season. Man. They showed so much promise back when they had a cheating engine. Now it's not pretty.
It just goes to show you, man, if your engine manufacturer is not doing right by you, man, it can really, really kill your prospects, man.
Speaking of AlphaTauri, the other Red Bull team, the sister Red Bull team, we mentioned at the top that Red Bull and Honda in general had problems all weekend with all kinds of stuff. It was evident in qualifying. Gasly was able to qualify P10, which was amazing compared to
Great drive by him in that qualifying.
amazing.
No, we got to say it. Since he went back to Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri, he planted his foot down and he's been performing.
He's been kicking some serious
For
butt.
that car, he's been doing great.
Yeah. He was doing good up until he had to retire the car because it was on fire. He pulls in and it's like, I smell something like burning plastic or whatever.
There's like a barbecue behind me. Oh, he said that
The car was literally on fire. Yeah, literally on fire. And I think they were having troubles the whole weekend with that engine, man. I don't know if it was a engine engine installation issue, but I mean, it seemed like Honda was having issues with their engine.
It's the VTEC, man.
So.
The VTEC.
The other AlphaTauri driver, Daniel Kvyat, he prior to the race, Ruben mentioned it before, he was asking if he should pit. He ended up pitting, but they didn't communicate it, so he didn't get the penalty.
Stupid penalty, man.
He did pit, yeah.
Oh man.
No, he pit, but the reason why he didn't get it is because
they never told him to.
I think AlphaTauri knew the rules and they refused to actually make the command like come in, So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it didn't really.
I guess they sent each other hand signals or something.
No, pretty much before the race, they spoke and they told him, if we stay quiet, that means come in.
Yeah, I don't know. He finished 12th, so it didn't really end up mattering. They are another car. They showed some promise, but back of the grid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. AlphaTauri is always up and down. They're just showing that they're always up and down. So we'll see.
So Williams, sorry, I just dropped my lid there. Williams, last team on the grid. They actually qualified pretty well. It seems that they're doing much better on Saturdays than they do on Sundays. They qualified 12th and 15th, 12th being Russell and 15th being Latifi. Latifi actually got off to a pretty crazy start, with everybody being on different tires, the track being a little wet. He was able to get himself from 15th up to 10th. Then he ended up getting his race screwed up when they did an unsafe release into Carlos Sainz that ended up getting him a puncture, and that just led to a whole host of problems. And he finished.
That was dangerous.
He finished 5 laps behind Lewis Hamilton. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of Williams?
The only thing exciting from the weekend for Williams was that it was Claire's Williams' birthday actually today on Tuesday.
Okay, happy birthday.
But as a team, there was nothing exciting from them. Come on, they're still in the back. But we have to give credit to Russell. Russell did the lap of his life that was not on a video game, and he was able to qualify 12th. Latifi, I don't know. I think he drank some of the better juice because I think during the race, he spun like 3 times, 2 times, something like that. He spun out.
He drank some Red Bull.
He drank some Red Bull.
made him a little crazy. Yeah.
So yeah, Latifi during the race, he did not have great luck. He, like I said, like Wellington said, he went down to 10th, but all the little mishaps caused him to be super down.
He's a rookie, man. I mean, it's expected mistakes.
Watching videos and stuff like that, I think he kept spinning out in the same corner too, because he was spinning out the same corner in practice.
You sure you weren't just playing replay on the same video?
Maybe I was 10 second back. Poor YouTube.
No, but I think that Latifi
he saw Ruben's Twitch stream and just wanted to do the same thing Ruben was doing.
Oh man, I got a Twitch.
Latifi's looking pretty okay. I don't know if this is gonna sound bad, but I know I'm gonna get hate mail. But I don't know if Robert Kubica would be putting in the same type of good moments with Williams. I'll say, granted, it didn't end up great, but qualified 15th, where that car is not great, and like I said, he got him up to 10th place, and things just started going bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a rookie in a bad car. He's still going to be rookie of the year. So,
but the car is making some improvements.
I saw.
They're going down. They're going down. The path.
I did see I did see a headline today that Williams is going to bring a powerful upgrade to their car next race. We'll see what that's all about.
You know what's funny, Yancy? Could you imagine that they bring such a powerful update that just sends it right back to the back of the field again? That would freaking suck. Because remember, the upgrades may or may not work.
I don't think it would be considered a powerful upgrade.
So I'm a little confused by their situation here. If I'm bringing an upgrade, I have the opportunity, again, you're at Silverstone and then you're at Silverstone the following week. You can very easily test this one car. It's your same car with the upgrades. I would hold off. I would bring it to the next race and see where that goes.
No, man, listen. I think it's the perfect opportunity to test it. It's what we mentioned a few of right after the first Austrian Grand Prix. That and this is what Ferrari were trying to do with some of their upgrades, but obviously they didn't work out with them for them. But you know, you can compare.
That's what I said.
What do you mean? What did you say?
No, I said don't bring it for the next race. Bring it for the one after, so that you could compare. Just like
Austria. Yeah, you're right.
My bad.
My bad. But nah, man, listen, you can't afford also to not bring an upgrade if you have it.
True.
We don't know how long the season's going to be. You know, honestly, I think anything Williams can do right now to improve the car, they should, because their car sucks anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll get
Again,
them from 15th to 12th.
Exactly. But again, what's going to happen? Oh, it didn't work. Oh, we're still in the back.
Yeah.
So, it didn't work, but we're still in the
I
back.
don't know. So guys, final thoughts on the race. What do you guys think? Ruben, what do you just coming out of here?
Listen, this race was a lot to talk about. You know, Ferrari being the gatekeepers of the midfield right now, which we love. And
You are such a hater, bro.
no, just say
damn.
2 points on the, you know, I'm glad, you know, this weekend went down the way it
Out
was.
of everything that happened during this race, that's your first point? My God.
Yeah, because that's what they did all race. They were just
But it's the same story the last two races, bro.
No, remember, last
They're
race they crashed out, you know, winning a couple of seconds from the beginning of the race. So we can't say
they're
nothing about the steering Grand Prix and what they did. But, you know.
Yeah.
No, seriously. This race showed a lot of different perspective regarding Formula One. It showed how to overcome with the Max situation. You know, unfortunately, he crashed right at the beginning and the mechanics went at it and they fixed the car completely. It showed Mercedes still has the good power that they were forced to have because of the Ferrari engine of last year. And now they're just destroying everybody. And, you know, we're still going to get some protests, you know, down the road from other teams, you know, being only Renault, because the other teams are not going to say anything because they don't want to be, you know, looked at, or against Mercedes. Because if McLaren says something, guess what? You're getting my engine next year. So we might put a couple of loose bolts in it, something like that, you know? So, but, you know, I'm just happy, you know, this is the third straight race went down without a glitch. The race directors behave way better in this race because we got to see, we still did not see all of them, but we got to see a lot of the midfield action, which is where the action is happening now. You know, in the
Because there
front,
was
when
nothing
Lewis
interesting
was
going on at the
by,
front, bro.
I don't know, almost a whole lap from everybody. There's nothing going on there. Besides Max complaining about saying getting the cars out of the way because Bottas was catching up to him. That's about it. We want to see the action in the midfield more because that's where it's landing to now.
Yes. Yancy, what do you got?
No, I mean, listen, this is the typical novela that is F1. The drama that the racing is one thing, but the drama and the things that happen during the race and how they correspond to the off-track, happenings is what, this is what really happened to me this weekend. I think we have, the mystery, not a mystery, but, Racing Point showing that they are a mighty car. They're going to be there to compete. Renault being salty about it. Ferrari really being nowhere. Mercedes being the best team that got better. I mean, that's, it's just, that's what we're seeing. And this is just like the swirl of things going around the paddock. I mean, this is why we watch the races, not only to see the racing because we want to see that stuff, but we also want to see how it advances the storyline of what, the Formula One season is and how everything will play out. And the fact that, teams will be bringing upgrades and things like that. It's very interesting to see what's going to happen in the future. But the race itself, it was okay. It was a lot of things going on at the beginning. But at the end, it played out like an okay race. It wasn't amazing, but it wasn't totally bad because there were things to talk about, obviously.
So for me, I think that it's really this season for me is it's a wash in the sense that like COVID hit and it really affected everything going forward in this season. It's really about, for me, next season, what dominoes are setting up. So we saw something that was interesting. We saw that the Haas team grew a pair of balls and they made a call that ended up benefiting them. That team in general, we're real nervous if they're even going to stick around for 2021, or maybe even next year. The other dominoes that I'm real interested in is Renault. What the heck is going to happen with them and that car? And they're going to get a top tier driver going into it. What's going to happen? How are they going to improve? They're not showing anything. And then lastly, McLaren. Yeah, you could take an engine and put it into a car, but that doesn't make a good car. So I want to see where their chassis is, where they had major aero problems in, I think, 2017. They couldn't cool the car. The Honda engine had a lot of problems in 2017. So I want to see where they're going to take a step forward. What's going to separate them from Racing Point? What's going to separate them from Mercedes Works team? What's going to make them better? Those are the things that, like, those are questions coming out of this race, not even answers.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I said. It's just this race, what the happenings of this race is just adding more questions as to what is going to be happening around these teams going forward. The race itself was, like I said, it wasn't that great, but it was okay. But it did further the narrative of each team as far as where they're going to wind up and how they will be positioned going into the rule changes in 2022.
Right. So then the other thing for me coming out of this race was they need to figure out what to do with the stewards and the penalties. We had 5 things going on this weekend. We had the Bottas jump in the start penalty, non-penalty, the Haas penalties for pit.
What did Bottas do again?
He jumped the start.
Okay.
So he had that penalty, the Haas penalties for pitting, for the communications, the drawing of the patch underneath tires for Albon, the Latifi 5-second penalty for unsafe release, and the Kimi penalty point and the penalty for the not lining up properly. I don't think any of these were actually resolved during the race. So you're leaving the race. If you're a casual observer, not us or anyone listening to us, you're leaving this race like, yo, okay, I just watched this. This is what happened, whatever. If any of these hit and change the outcome, then it's like, okay, what the heck happened? Why can't they just... So the only one that I can see as, okay, that needed a little bit of investigation was the Albon penalty. But other than that, like, yo, just make the decision. Yeah,
I mean, I think the results that we posted on our Instagram account, Jump to Start Podcast, were totally different from what it wound up being because we were waiting for what these penalties, how these penalties would affect the actual standings in the race. So they need to get their act together and figure out if they can actually do these things during the race or immediately after something happens. But this whole waiting around, like it's like, we're going to court and stuff, it doesn't make any sense to me. Just, you are the governing body. You are you manage the rules of the race. The rules are clearly written. If they're not clearly written, then you got to make sure for when the next rule changes come around that they're clearly written so this doesn't happen because this is not good for the sport.
Nope.
People want to know right away what happened, why it happened, and what is the result of it so we can see who won, who didn't win, who got in this place or not. This whole waiting around thing it doesn't make any sense, because then, and that's how we get this debacle where Carlos Sainz last year couldn't stand on a podium that he rightly deserved and celebrate the proper way because they had to wait hours after the race. They need to get that. They need to fix that problem.
So that does it for the race.
There's one thing we haven't mentioned from the race yet. By Ham winning this last Grand Prix, that was his 8th win at Hungary. So he tied Schumacher for having 8 wins, and Schumacher did it in France, but by having 8 wins at the same Grand Prix, that makes him also 5 wins away by tying him on the all-time list of the Grand Prix winners. So Ham is getting closer and closer
to these all-time records.
GOAT status, you know?
Yeah.
And I think
legendary.
that leads to your next point on where you're going.
So, yeah, actually, good segue. Thank you. The other thing that's kind of circulating around the track outside of the race, and actually during the race too, is the whole Lewis Hamilton Black Lives Matter thing. Prior to the race, the FIA, they seemed to rush the photo of the drivers kneeling, standing, whatever. Ham did not like that. He went on social media to mention that, and he actually mentioned that during a few interviews. He actually had words also for Grosjean, who he felt didn't respect it enough, Romain Grosjean. And then even Mario Andretti came out, a legend in racing in general, came out stating that Ham is creating a problem that does not exist in the sport. That is so... Yeah, it's... I can't agree with Mario Andretti. We only have the one black driver.
Just look at all the personnel. Take a picture of all the personnel in the paddock, and you can clearly see, one, they're lacking diversity as far as,
and not just the drivers, right?
Not just the drivers. I'm talking about the entire paddock, and it's not only different races, but it's also women. Very little women there too. Diversity is a big problem all across the board in this sport because there's not enough people. Now, I'm not saying, listen, I don't know what the hiring practices are, but if your sport is not reflecting how the rest of the world is, as diverse as we are, especially a sport that is worldwide, has a worldwide audience, then yeah, man, you have a diversity problem.
I think that Mario Andretti is really kind of missing the boat in general by saying that it's a problem that doesn't exist. It's what we always talk about, that a lot of people don't understand or don't see a problem because it's not personally affecting them. Yeah, to me, if I'm a rich white guy, which I'm not, of course it does, that problem doesn't exist to me. But Hamilton is, we've talked about it before on this podcast, where Hamilton had major issues in Spain, Monza, etc., wherever he would travel, that the fans would wear blackface, they would call out crazy stuff to him. It's the type of situation that just by creating initiatives, by trying to get, more minorities involved. Problem with F1 is that it has not just a racial problem, but it has a wealth gap problem, because now there's so many pay drivers, and that's just, the whole thing is just so expensive that's just the way it's trending. So these are two huge negatives for creating diversity. And one thing that I see, and it's the same old story every time something like this comes up, especially when you talk about race, is that everybody stands up once. So from what my understanding is, in the first race, they let the drivers have a moment, have a moment. The FIA gave them a spot where they can either kneel or stand up, and they put, the end racism t-shirts and stuff like that. After that first race, that courtesy was not being extended anymore. Yeah, they're wearing the t-shirts. Yeah, some of them are kneeling, some of them are standing, but it seems like they're rushing them. I think even Antonio Giovinazzi came and he couldn't even have time to put on the shirt. He just put it he tucked it into his overall so you could see that it's shown. Yeah, they're not making any more money off of it, I guess.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. The solution is always, let me mention it once just so people can see that, yeah, no, we're against racism and we got to end it. And then after that, it's not talked about anymore. Meanwhile, all these things keep happening to people of color. And this is why Lewis Hamilton keeps saying, and he keeps talking to other drivers, and he keeps saying, listen, this is a problem that we have to talk about all the time, because it's not a problem that's going to go away overnight. And if we have a worldwide platform, I am the best driver in the world, possibly the best driver to ever do it. Please, and he's literally carrying the sport right now. Please give me a platform to end this, because this is not a political issue. This is a social issue. This is a human rights issue that we need to talk about in order for us to solve it. And obviously people are not getting that message. That's why we have to keep talking about it.
I think on that aspect, yeah, that we also have to. They're not doing enough, but I'm not 100% educated on this. You know, obviously I don't watch too much news, so I'm not too much in depth into the, you know, what sport is doing what. But we gotta go back. Remember, Kaepernick was doing it by himself, and he got ousted out of his sport. Now, what he was doing cut so much track, and racism was brought up to the front. We also have to give credit to Formula One. They brought it to the front. They're the only sport that
it wasn't Formula One, though.
By the way,
it wasn't Formula One. It was Lewis Hamilton that did it.
Formula One just did, and remember, the kneeling started in football. You know, did you
hear what Yancey said?
Say that again?
But it wasn't Formula One that did it. It was Lewis Hamilton that did it. Lewis Hamilton called out the drivers. Lewis Hamilton is calling out Formula One. So it wasn't Formula One that doing it. And the only reason that they did it, and they probably would have stayed away from it, is because Lewis Hamilton did it. And they have to listen to Lewis Hamilton, because he is the world champion and he is breaking all the records.
So that's why I said I'm not 100% educated on this subject. So I thought the slogan "We race as one" came from that.
No, the re-race as one was something that was pre-thought, and it was actually more. No. It wasn't. It wasn't really because of COVID. It was more aimed for pride.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So,
yeah.
So
it wasn't.
So pretty much. So back into
it was for pride.
Which exists. You know, like you say.
And racism. Those T-shirts and racism came out because it was Lewis Hamilton that called out the drivers and called out FOM. Formula One as a whole, and that's why they're doing it. And obviously what they're trying to do is what any other sport does, is that they're saying yeah, sweeping it under the rug like if it's not a problem, which it clearly is a problem. And this is why Hamilton keeps talking about it, and I think he's starting the Hamilton Initiative, where he wants to bring in not only drivers of different races and different backgrounds, but also engineers and people who work on these teams and mechanics and all of that.
Where do I sign up? Where do I sign up?
Yeah, where do we sign up? Also, what I recommend to people that
let's find out.
I guess maybe affiliate too much, because obviously they have not lived in the situation. There is a good Netflix movie. It's called Uppity, and it was a African American driver, I believe in the 70s, and he just couldn't make it because of the color of his skin.
We'll put that. What's it called? Uppity.
Uppity, yes.
We'll put that into the show notes.
That's a very good movie to watch. To affiliate. To see, because unless you lived it or gone through it, you understand more. But that's a very good perspective, where he pretty much tried everywhere, and they did not. They did not. He just kept getting a lot of hurdles to be able to prospect.
I mean, that's what happens, and that's the things that a Mario Andretti would not be affected by. Mario Andretti would not be, quote unquote, Mario Andretti if he was a different skin color.
Exactly. And as Hamilton said, I think he said on his Instagram, these are the type of attitudes that exist in the sport. And he's been in the sport, so he's experienced this, 10 times worse than anybody else, being the first black driver to do anything in Formula One. And then you had the whole issue with Bernie Ecclestone, and that's why he even got stripped of his title, his honorary title in Formula One management. These are the types of attitudes that are making the decisions. And these are the types of attitudes that we literally got to get rid of. Now, I'm not saying, I'll shut them, kick them out. I'm just saying, talk to them and make them see the perspective of a person of color and the struggles that they go through in life and period. Again, it's not a political issue. This is a social issue. This is a human rights issue. And we are entitled to our rights as human beings, regardless of our color.
Yeah, this is a subject it's not going to end for a while. And I like talking about it because I believe every time it comes up, I educate myself a little more as well.
And that's what we have to do. We have to talk about it.
Exactly.
I mean, you guys already know my feelings. As long as we all have open minds when we talk about it and not listen to propaganda against either side, then we're all moving forward at least.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So just to kind of wrap this show up, I just wanted to bring up F1 Fantasy and how much it freaking sucks and how disappointed I am with them because they just can't get their act together. Even checking today, 2 days after the race, they showed that Lewis Hamilton scored 147 points in fantasy just this past week alone. And it's like, yo, how do we have
it's like you're like, we're trying to have a good time with this and we can't even get the stats right. I think I logged on and I couldn't even see in our league who was number one.
It's me,
you know,
by the way.
Well, but listen, you know what I saw was number 2 and I was still disappointed because I saw you. But listen, that's besides the point.
Yes, I am also on number 2. That's what my boss calls me.
But yeah, they need to get their act together like they do on Formula One TV.
Yeah,
they're working better.
Sure.
But listen, come on, man, let's get this thing fixed so we can have a good time. We love watching the sport. You know, invest some money into this. And I mean, I know times are tough, but damn it, man, let us have a little bit of fun with fantasy, and at least know where the hell we're at. To be honest with you.
All right. But that pretty much wraps it up for me. Guys, you have anything else to add?
Nah, man, that's it. We're off to Silverstone.
Pretty much the same thing. We're off to Silverstone. Can't wait for the changes that are coming from every team, so we could just bring it back to people, you know, to this way and give them our perspective.
I just want to see Williams powerful.
And on that note, we'll see you later. Peace out.
All right, guys. Bye, guys.